Good morning. This is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and I'm so happy to be back with you today. We had last week, we were on quarantine for darn old COVID, but we're doing good. Not me. My hubby had COVID, so since I was exposed to him, I was at home. So anyway, I wanted to talk about a few different tips that I use to make great button bands for sweaters. And what I'm talking about is, this is a little baby sweater, and you can see the button band here. And I just wanted to talk about a couple techniques that I use to make the button bands more stiff, shall I say. Sometimes these button bands can be floppy and kind of sloppy. And we don't want that in our sweaters, right? So I wanted to show you a couple tricks that I like to use to make the button bands even better. And this is another button band. I just wanted to show you this sample. And the button band on this one was knit as you knit the sweater. So it was all in one. And this was a sample from Plymouth Yarn Company using, what yarn did they? Oh, Encore worsted, regular Encore. Encore is great sweater material because it is a wool blend with acrylic, so you can wash it in the machine. And that was the price for the last time that I was here. And the pink colorway was the colorway that you all chose. And I was thinking for the price for this week, we could use some Sasquatch. And I was going to use a tonal one and then a multi one, but the multi ones are so cool looking. I thought maybe we could choose between this blue or what would you call it? Lavender? Lavender. I don't know what color. But anyway, very pretty. All these different colors together. So you guys choose, and we can send this out to the lucky winner for next week.
So some people are starting to come online from Colorado.
Oh, hello, everyone. It's so nice to have you here with me. And I love talking about the details in our sweaters. And today it's going to be button bands. And I love making sweaters, especially learning how to make sweaters using baby patterns. If you have any babies in your life or friends that are having babies, it's a great way to learn how to knit a sweater. And the success of your sweater knitting is really in the details, don't you think, Jim? Mm-hmm. If the details aren't done well, then it kind of ruins the rest of the sweater. And you put so much time into making a sweater, it's a shame if it doesn't come out just as beautiful as you want it to be.
Several people were just joining, and they wanted to know about the new yarn that you're doing this week.
This one is Sasquatch yarn. It is a sock yarn, but it's also can be used for shawls and different things. It is a merino wool, and it's a hand-painted yarn, and it has a bit of nylon in it. For socks, right? Yes, and it's hand dyed just for us by a local vendor, and she is a mom with I think teenage children now, or maybe a little older than that now, but really super nice lady. So we're happy to have her yarns. So I wanted to take a look at the sweater that I'm doing this week. Is this little? It is called. It's a color work baby cardigan by El Oasis della Maglia. And Meg, if you're out there, if you can put a link to that pattern, that would be great. So this is what I'm doing right now, and I'll explain the whole thing to you. And here's the back of it. And I'm just working on the button band now. And I wanted to show you. So they can see it. So I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to hold. So we'll take a look at it in closer detail. Jim, maybe you can bring the camera around for me so we can see. And I wanted to talk about a few things. First of all, when you're doing these button bands, and it's a knitted project, you want to see these buttons. Let's take a look at the two different sizes. So this size is equivalent to these little buttons that I've chosen. And let's see what the millimeters are on there. It's 16 millimeters or 5/8 inch for the baby sweater. And I did on this one 6 buttons. And that looks pretty good. You could also choose maybe a little smaller buttons and put more of them on. And these are 1/2 inch or 12 millimeters. So if you're new to sweater knitting, for baby sweaters, this 16 millimeter is a very common size that I use when I'm doing the baby sweaters. Looks really great on baby sweaters. And these little puppies, I love these. They're called backer buttons, and they're just clear. And you can use any button for a backer button. And let's take a look at this sweater and see what the backer buttons look like. I'm just going to unbutton this. And next week, we're going to be talking about buttonholes, different types of buttonholes, and what types of button knitting you can use each buttonhole type for.
What's this sweater called?
Yes, this one is a free pattern. You can find it on Ravelry, and it's called Stripes on Stripes by Susan Mills. And this is used knit coal yarn. It's number 53, and it's a great wool blend of yarn, and it's cute for little kids. Yes, we carry that. And yeah, this one you can find on Ravelry, but it was an easy pattern to follow. And what I love about this pattern is for a fur sweater, having the raglan sleeves where you do start at the top and then do increases for the sleeves is a great method of knitting a sweater for a beginning sweater knitter. And if you can see on this pattern here, the sleeves are nice and roomy. And a lot of baby patterns, the sleeves are not, they're too tight. And so this for a little baby is fantastic. I love that. And so it was a great sweater to knit. Let's take a look at, here's the little backer buttons. And I didn't use this kind of backer buttons. I just used another, just kind of clear buttons. And the idea of what you would do is you fasten one button, you fasten the buttons to each other. And what that does is cause some structure to your button band and makes your button band a lot less loosey-goosey. Can you see how it kind of adds structure to it? Yeah. And so using backer buttons is a great way to get your knitted garment to have more structure to it. Now on mine, this acrylic one, you can see on here, look at this side over here. I haven't picked up my stitches for this one yet, but see how much longer it is and how it's kind of doesn't have a lot of shape to it. So what I was trying to do over here, and I will probably end up having to do this over again, is use a needle that's 2 sizes smaller than my knitting, and then pick up as many stitches as I can. The recommended or usual rule that a lot of people follow for picking up stitches for button bands is you pick up 3 rows for every 4 rows. So you would pick up 3 stitches and then skip 1, and then pick up 3 stitches and skip 1, and that's how it follows. But on this edge, I'm just having a real hard time getting it to look smooth. I can kind of get it to look smooth down here and kind of get it look smooth up here. In this center, I don't know. It's just being a pain. And I think it has something to do with the pattern called for purl stitches there. And it's just making the pickup look sloppy. And it's kind of, and because the it's kind of loose on the edges, it's just wanting to show through. So we'll have to see how it goes. I'm going to rework this and see how I can do that. But definitely using backer buttons, and then making sure that when you go to pick up your stitches on your outer edge, here's an example. Here's my outer edge. Do you see I picked up that very first stitch way on the outer edge? It almost looked like when I was picking up the stitch that I'm picking up a stitch from the bottom cast on edge, or the top cast on edge in this case for the around the neck. But do you see how it looks? It goes straight across. A lot of times when you're knitting sweaters, let's see if this one looks. No, I did a good job on this one too. A lot of sweaters, when they're knit and they pick up for the button band, there's a big a dent right there. And you don't want to have that dent. It doesn't look that good with the dent. But you can see on mine, this one here, it goes straight across. And then this one here goes straight across. So I have gotten pretty good at picking up that very first stitch, almost making a stitch there just to make sure that I have a band that goes straight across instead of having that divot, which looks kind of funky. And that can happen at the bottom. See here on the bottom, my pickup isn't quite as clean. I almost could have picked up another stitch right down here on this cast on edge and made it look even better. Do you see that, Jim? So that's something to think about when you're doing your button bands. And then making sure that when you're picking up button bands and you're doing your button holes, the button holes that you're going to be created are on the left-hand side for a boy and on the right-hand side for a girl, just in case you needed to know. And if you don't do that, it's not the end of the world. That is traditionally what people do. So on this particular sweater, because this is the left-hand side of the sweater, that would be for a boy. And it has blue buttons. Do you see that? The button holes are on the left-hand side. And if they were on the right-hand side, it would be for a little girl. And it would be girly colors. Yeah. And then
you're traditional.
Right. I'm more traditional. You can, do you, but anyway, I'm just telling you what a lot of the rules are that are like standard kind of rules that are out there. And if you follow them, you can follow them. If you don't like to follow them, don't follow them. It doesn't really matter. It's you do you. You do what you like. And I'm sure the whole thing when we're creating things is to make something that we like anyway. So if you want to break the rules, I do. Quite often I break the rules. And I'm happy with that. So I do it as much as I need to make my project look the way that I want it to look. And then also remembering, like on this sweater, I have a standard bind off. And it looks okay. What do you guys think about that? It's just a standard bind off. On this sweater, on the sleeves, these sleeves right here, I use smaller needles, and you can see that it's quite stretchy, except for when I got to the bind off, I used the same size needle that I was knitting with my my regular knitting. So I have a nice stretchy bind off, because you never want to have your sleeves be tight. But you can see that this knit at a tighter gauge, it kind of sucked it in just a little bit, and I think it made it look nice. And let's see over here. This one, I think back then I didn't really, I didn't employ all the tricks that I use now when I made this sweater. But I had quite a few that, but this one feels maybe just a little bit tiny tight on the sleeves. The bind off could have been done just a little bit better. And I'm pretty sure that this, the ribbing that I did was done in the same exact needle size that I would have knit the sweater in. I don't think I did any fancy footwork on this sweater. It was just pretty standard. So, and then for what? The button bands. Yeah. The bind off. See how stretchy this is on the hand. This all kind of plays in together, which is why I'm talking about it. This one is a bind off in pattern, and you can see that it's nice and it's stretchy, but not too much. I think that when you bind off on the sweaters, I really like that Icelandic bind off. And let me show you if there's, right here is an Icelandic bind off. Doesn't that look nice? And if you put this on the edge of a button band, do you see how clean that would look? I'm turning it sideways so you can imagine in your mind what it would look like as a button band. It would look really clean on the edge. It almost has this rolled edge. That looks really nice, don't you think? So Icelandic bind off for button bands is one of my very favorite bind offs. Another thing that I like is, well, I like when I do the button bands, I like the edge of the button band to be kind of substantial, meaning to have something special about it, like similar to this with the rolled edge. And another way you could do this edge that would be really cool looking is to use Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off with a small size needle, because that gives you the Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, because you're doing yarn overs. It gives it more substantial edge and kind of a very finished, polished edge. It would look better than this bind off that I've done here, I think. But, you know, it's all whatever you think. But the bind offs can make a big difference. Yeah, my favorite bind offs for a button band are the Icelandic bind off and Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off with a smaller needle. Yeah, because it looks so good. And so anyway, another trick that I like to use is when you're going to do your buttons, I know you guys probably all do this, to just use little stitch markers and kind of put them and see if you like them. The one thing you want to make sure when you're doing your button bands is that
that's where the buttons go, I take it?
Yep, that's where the button, you're going to do your, you would just knit to the spot where you want your button to be, and then you do a yarn over knit 2 together. And that's my favorite buttonhole for baby sweaters, is a yarn over knit 2 together. And this is what it looks like. This is a yarn over knit 2 together. You can see it's just big enough to put those the baby buttons through, but it's not so big that it's going to cause a problem. But it looks pretty good, don't you think, Jim?
Yeah.
It doesn't look sloppy, I don't think. I think it looks good. So anyway, that works great. And then another thing that you want to keep in mind when you're doing your button bands for a lot of people, especially if your sweater might be stretched or a little bit tight, is how far you space those buttons apart. If you space them too far apart, what you'll get if the sweater's a little bit tight is gapping. The fabric will pull, and you'll have you ever seen that before, where it looks like the shirt is stretched?
Yeah, not a good look.
Not a good look, not even on baby sweaters. So keep that in mind when you're knitting. Usually these smaller buttons come in packages of 4. So no matter what baby sweater, you'd be having 8 buttons to work with, which this is 5 buttons, but it's still quite wide. So I might even go with 7 or so. Go with 2 more buttons on here and put them a little closer together, just so you don't have any chance that it would have this gappy, funny looking, not good looking thing.
But then it takes Mama more time to put the sweater on. So
it does take more time, but let me tell you, on little kids, when you're buttoning up the sweater, all you have to do is button a few of the buttons in this, at maybe 3 or 4. You don't have to button the last buttons if you don't want. You can leave them open and leave it more like a little crop top. But yeah, I really like putting my buttons just a little bit closer together and avoiding that gap. But I'm liking the fabric on this sweater. I wish you could feel it.
What's the fabric?
It's an acrylic yarn. I've never worked with acrylic before. Can you believe it? I've never knit a sweater using acrylic, because I always feel like if I have enough time to knit a sweater, I'm going to make it out of either alpaca or merino wool. Maybe I'm a yarn snob. I'm not sure about that. Anyways, so I thought this time I would try an acrylic, and I like this acrylic. It feels really nice.
Who's it from? Is it just a sample from a vendor, or is it?
No, no. This is from Barocco. It's Comfort.
Oh, wow.
Comfort yarn. Yeah. And what I like about the Comfort is the price point on it is really good. I mean, it's like, very inexpensive yarn, and so you can do color work with it and not break the bank. You know what I'm saying? And I think it turned out pretty good. And I know a lot of you out there say that they like being able to machine wash the sweaters. And I know my daughter, I made that wonderful, remember that beautiful Sueno Jones cardigan that I made, and my daughter has a dryer that would kill anything, and she kept drying it in the dryer until it started getting stiff. It's like, Lauren, do you know how many hours I spent making that for you, darling? I was a little bit heartbroken, but oh well. We move on. Yeah, I can always make another one. My granddaughter is well worth it. She is She is just an angel from heaven. Oh yes, she is fantastic. But I love both my granddaughters. They're great, and mom and dad are great moms and dads. Thank you, hallelujah. Anyway, all right, you guys. So don't forget to vote on Sasquatch, and we have kind of the blues or mauve something or another mixture. And yes, this is Sasquatch, which is wonderful, not only for socks, but for shawls and all kinds of stuff. It's beautiful.
So it's blue
or mauve or whatever you want to call it. You could say blue or pink.
Blue or pink? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some pink in it. We'll know, just so we know what color you like, so that we can send out the one to the lucky winner for next week. So for this week, we had some encore, right? And the encore was for either the gray or the pink, and the pink was the color that was chosen. And this is, if you haven't tried this encore before, it is called a workhorse yarn, and that's because you can put it in the wash machine. It's a wool acrylic blend, and it works up really nice. I mean, at first thought, when you first feel it, it doesn't feel quite as soft, but when you get it in the wash machine and take it out, it is beautiful. I've made quite a few things with this. Matter of fact, I'm excited to try a color work project sweater with this yarn, because this has great yardage too, and it's made in Turkey, and it's just a good quality all-purpose yarn. And I love that it comes ready to knit too. Oh, and don't forget, is this the one that is on, no. For today, we have a coupon code if you wanted to buy Sasquatch for 10% off. And the code is TT712. And I think there'll be an auto link in there that you can just press the button and apply it to your purchase if you want to. Yes, if you want to purchase this yarn today. And so if you haven't tried this sock yarn, it really is beautiful. And not just for socks, you can use it for sweaters. It's fantastic. So let's see for the encore who the winner is. It's Sandy Tokanuga. Sandy, yay, congratulations. You won some encore, and all you have to do is get in contact with customer service at Alpaca Direct. And we just need your shipping address, and we can get it out in the mail to you. So for this next week, I just wanted to, I'm going to go through several different buttonhole patterns, just little techniques that you can use to make your buttonholes. And you can see them side by side, so you can see which buttonhole you like best. So I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you next Tuesday.